Welcome all. Welcome back to the Unit 2 unpacking assignment video, where we will be looking over the memo now after we've dissected what it is that would be that was asked of us, and the resources and tools that they gave us in order for us to calculate NPV. So we'll just be going through the step-by-step process of how to get there in terms of finding out cash flows and how to discount them and how to make an overall NPV calculation look like. Thank you. Let's go. So first things first, we'll just start with the cash sales, right? So we basically are looking at seeing all these cash flows over the period of the lifespan of the project. So we need these cash flows, because once we have those many cash flows, well, those cash flows throughout the time, we can bring them together into the present with our net present value to figure out if the project is viable or not. So with that, you're going to need to be establishing cash flows that are relevant to the NPV calculation that you are busy with, that are relevant to the project that you are busy with, in order for you to get a successful NPV value, right? So here we are looking at the sales volume. Basically, what needs to happen here is you would take your individual selling price that was given to us, because we were told that in 2027 they're going to sell at a price of 200 the units, or the product is going to be sold at 200 rand. And then moving forward from 2018 all the way to 2031, it's only going to be 100 rand, right? But they did also mention that the sales volume would increase. So we see that happening here, and then here there was a slight decrease. So maybe towards the end of the project, some things may not work so well, right? So then for you to get these values here at the bottom, you just say 40 million multiplied by the selling price, and then you've got this. I've highlighted it in green to showcase that it is money coming in and not money coming out, right? So it's green for that reason. And then I also color coded here for us to remember which growth rate belongs where. So we know that this growth rate pertains to that 1 million fixed cost that we were given, right? So in 2027, we have a 1 million fixed cost, and we were told that in 2028 it's going to grow. So we would have to then use the 2027 value and grow it by 1.06, and you would get this value. And then after you've gotten this value, you could use this value to find the value for 2029 by simply taking this value, multiplying it by that value to get this amount, right? And so forth up until 2031, right? Then we're moving on to the labor costs. We were told that these are from 2026, and they will be growing in 2027. So therefore, we will take your 20 cost, grow it by 1.1, which is the 10% they told us, and you will get 22. And again, simply we are growing for the next year and year and year, just to find out what the prices are towards the end. So this is the time value of money element of us understanding what would happen to our costs when we are busy with our project, right? So if they were able to buy tires at 20 rand, and now in 2027 they're buying them at 27, now they're buying resources again at 24 rand in 2018. So this is just that growth, just to show you that value of money loses. Like, it gets lost over time, right? That's how NPV also considers that in its calculation. So therefore, then you would take your 22, grow it by 1.1, got your 24, grow it by 1.1, then you to get 26, and then you get your 26 and you grow it by 1.1, and etc. etc. 15%, 15 rand, we were told, also grows at 1.1. So it would be 15 growing at 1.1. You've got this value, and then you take this value, grow by 1.1, you get that value for the year. So then basically each year you are considering the price from before and its growth into your year to the next year. Then 15 rand, we were told, was growing at 1.07. This is for variable overheads. So you would say 15 multiplied by 1.07. Then you got your 16. And then you take your 16 and you grow it by 1.07. You've got your 17. And then you take your 17, grow it by 0.7. You get your 18, right? Now to get your total, you have to add all of these amounts that you have grown individually, right? And then individually attach them to your individual sales volume. How do you do that? You take your total, you multiply it by your sales volume, and you will get this value over here. You do that for the year 26, 28, 29, 30, and 31. I put that in red to show that it is an outflow. So for future reference, we know what we need to do once we need to construct the whole NPV calculation as a whole, as opposed to the steps. Then I also did the same for this part with the fixed overhead costs, because I needed to also highlight it, then put it in red so that you're all aware of the fact that it is an outflow. Okay, continued. Now we are looking at finding the relevant cash flows so that we can calculate them in order for us to get to the tax calculation, right? The tax calculation is hinged on our relevant cash flow. What is our relevant cash flow? It would be our sales less all our costs. Our costs, there they are in red, to get that value of 4.8, 2.5, 2.3, 2.3, and 900, right? So basically, these are our profits that are going to be deducted based on tax, right? Yeah, that's just basically it. And then again, colored, because this is money going out in red, this is money going in green, right? So then the next step is calculating tax, right? So we will take our relevant cash flow, multiply it by 27%. You will get this value over here. And then remember, they told you that you only pay half this year, half of the year you incurred. So you're going to take your 1.3 million and 860 divided by 2, you will get 650, 430, and then that is your current year tax that you have to pay, right? Which would then be in red because it's money going out, right? And then previous year is going to be 0, obviously, because it just started, right? And there were no other things that you incurred in 2026, because our project starts in 2027 and profits are realized in 2027. So in 2028, you would then take your value and you multiply it by 27%, you get it there, and then you divide it by 2 to get this value, and then with this value you add it to the previous year's portion from 2027. So it's going to basically zigzag that way, and that is why we have the year 2032 as part of our calculations, because we have these outstanding tax amounts that we had to pay from 2031 and 2030. All right, so that is how you do the tax if it's got a lag. Now we're going to get into depreciation. Okay, how do you calculate it? We were told it was in the diminishing line balance. So therefore, we're going to take our 5 and multiply it by our 20% here that they gave us in order for us to get this 1 million. But in order for us to get this value, you're going to say 5 million multiplied by 20%, 1 minus 20%, right? And then you'll get your 4 million, which is now your new depreciable value, right? Then for this depreciation, it would have been 4 million multiplied by 20% gives you 800. And then to get your new residual value or your new depreciable amount, you would then have to say 4 million minus 800 to give you 3.2 million. And you just keep doing the same where you depreciate this amount by 20 to get this. And in order for you to get this, you say 640 minus 3.2 million to get this value. All right. So I'd like to just draw your attention to this final, to this piece down here, right? On how to calculate the tax for the residual value and that leftover amounts in with the depreciation. So this amount comes from this amount less this amount, right? So basically this becomes the new residual value, right? And we were also told that there is 700 in terms of selling the machinery at the end, which would be a profit, right? So then you're going to do this. I'm going to draw your attention here, right? So you're going to take your 12228 million and you're going to minus it by 700,000 and you're going to get this value over here. Then you're going to take these individual numbers, right? So you're going to say 1222800, right? Multiplied by this tax rate of 27, you get this amount. Then you're gonna say 700 multiplied by the tax amount of 27, and you'll get this amount. And therefore, these two add up to 474, right? That would be the new tax amount, right? Tax value. And then how do you get the tax for the others is basically you take your depreciation and and you multiply it by the tax amount. So to get this value, you say 1 million times 0.27, and then you got it. And then remember, payable in the next, even though this is a tax relief, but it's also the same way they say it's previous and then next, right? So you'll take your 270 and you'll divide it by 2 to get your 135 for this year, right? And then 0 obviously from the previous year, and then in your next year, just write the years here: 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Yeah. Then you do that, and then you come back again. This value comes from the 800 multiplied by the tax rate. Alright, you get that, you then half it, and then after you've halved it, then you add it to the previous tax rate, right? And so on and so forth, and so on and so forth, until this is what's going to be left over for the next year. All right. Let's come in and do a post-tax cash flow, right? So here we are, right? All these steps are coming together now, right? We did the sales, right? We did the production, we did the production costs, and we all know that here, this is how it's supposed to look like, because costs are negative, they are an outflow. And then you've got that value, and then we've got the tax, you plug it in, right? And then here's your 5 million that you had invested in 2026. Then you've got your taxation that you have to pay, right? And then you've got your taxation that you got to save from the previous slide that we were calculating, right? Because that taxation was on the machinery and its depreciation, so therefore there were tax savings on that. And then you get your post-tax cash flow. This post-tax cash flow is the cash flow that we will be using to get our NPV. So just quick with the discounting factor calculation, right? Here is the formula for discounting factor. So basically you're going to keep saying 1 over 1 plus r, which in this case is 14, to the power of, here would be 0 for this one, and then for this one would be to the power of 1, to the power of 2, to the power of 3, to the power of 4, to the power of 5, to the power of 6, right? So this is how, if you're going to use the discounting formula. So you take all your pre-tax, and then you use this formula to get these values. Once you've gotten these values, then obviously you multiply them. So 5 multiplied by 1, 4 multiplied by 0.8, 1 multiplied by that, which will give you a new set of values, right? This is for just all the years. So this is what the final answer looks like. Constructed, this is how you are supposed to construct it as per the examiner. So you've got your sales again. So all those values that we have been counting, you just plug them back in here. You plug them back in, plug them back in, plug them back in. Here's your discounting factor, there it is, and then your present value, right? So this is now after you've considered all the discounting factors, right? You get your present value. And then once you've gotten your present value, you add all of these. You add them all to get your net present value. And because it is positive, you then accept the project, right? You can use your financial calculator where you take these values, right? You take these values. So this would be 0, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in terms of your cash flows in your calculator, and then your N would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, and then your NPV then will come from your calculator. But these are the cash flows that you would use. Oh, and then your interest would be 4%. That's what you 14% as you were given. I hope everything made sense. And yeah, see you next video. Thank you for listening. Good night.